All right, hello everybody. This is Sir Adrian here, stepping in for Laker to film the Austro-Hungarian Empire's turn in our current game of Global War 1914, titled Operation Bersaglieri. So let's get into things. So in terms of the tech roles, the Austrians have one major factory over in Bohemia. They're going to try to go for counter battery fire, which I believe is a 7 or higher. Might have been an 8, but regardless, with the roll of an 11, they definitely hit it. So there we are. The Austro-Hungarians complete counter battery fire. In terms of purchases, while we're over here, they have 26 IPP to spend. So once again, I use the gray chips if they're just on their own like that, or stacked with nothing else on them. To represent colonials because I don't have enough. So they're going to buy 2 colonials for 4. They're going to buy 3 infantry units for 9. They're going to buy themselves a seaplane for 6. They're going to lend lease a seaplane to the Germans for 6. And with their last IPP, they're going to buy an influence roll. Now, he had said it was for Romania, but the Austrians actually, and I don't have it marked here because I had forgot from the last turn, but they actually get a free influence roll as well due to capturing Taurida, which is part of the Ukraine, or that part of the Russian Empire anyways, not Ukraine at the time, but you know what I mean. But capturing that the last turn, and they still have it this turn. So we'll use the free diplomacy roll for Romania. And then they would have to go for one more. And I think he's gone for Spain a couple times in the past to try and get that down. Actually, you know what? I think in this case, going for Greece would make more sense. If I was a central power, I would try to get Greece down. So hopefully he misses that. But we'll go ahead for Greece. So regardless, so this... Oh, here, we'll get a different colored dice. So this green dice will be the free diplomacy roll for Romania. So for that, we're going for a 3 or less. 3 or less. And this magenta colored dice will be for Greece. So Romania, Greece. So we'll see if we get anything. So the dice roll for Romania misses, but the one for Greece is a hit. Which is unfortunate for the Allies. But there you have it. So that's going to go down to ports open. So now that that's taken care of, we can move on to attacks. So we're only going to have one attack. Do you believe Russia? Yeah, just the one attack for now. So we're going to have the seaplane that's in Constantinople. It's going to go on maritime air patrol 1, 2, and it's going to attempt to raid the British there on this line. So seaplanes don't get a boost or anything to their attack. So the green dice will be for the seaplane. This will be for the defender. So 5 to 3. So the British are going to lose, 2 IPP on that line. So go ahead and grab a damage marker for that. Should have one that's 2 left. Yep, there we go. We'll grab a little sinking convoy. So not ideal, but not terrible either. So the British are going to lose 2 IPP. And we'll land this seaplane back already. It's going to non-combat move back into Constantinople. with the rest of its movement. And I'm just trying to see. Oh, yeah. I was gonna say he might have, or not missed, but I was wondering myself whether he had potentially with the what I call the second army want to do a attrition attack over into southern France, but the French have counter battery fire. However, I myself, who am playing the Imperial Russians, do not have that. And if we go over to Orel Kursk, there isn't one of these artillery units that is going to be railed somewhere else, but he has 4 more that he could do an attrition attack with. And to be honest, it's a free attack as long as the enemy doesn't have counter battery fire, which I myself, as I said, as the Russians do not. You might as well roll it, unless you're planning on moving all your units, because you can't attack, of course, and then move something. But looking at his orders, yeah, he only has one of those artillery that's in Orel Kursk that's going to be railing down to Torita. Yeah. There's nothing about any of those other artillery moving. So we won't roll one of them, the one that we're going to move, but we'll go ahead and roll the other 4 just to see if he gets any hits with that on a 1. So yeah, see, so there you go. So he actually did get a hit with that. I could have not suggested that as the Russian player, but of course this is a game where we're all, even those of us who have played a few games before or have tried to teach other games, such as myself, where we're all still learning the rules and that, and stuff that you don't want to miss out on and what have you. So I'm not going to be that guy and not point it out. But anyway, so I myself, as the Russians, have to lose a unit, so I'm just going to lose one of my militia there. So that'll be it for the Austrians in terms of attacks. It was just those 2. So non-combat movement. So the colonials in western and southern Ukraine are going to move to where the tanks are, so we can actually place that on top. Yeah, so the one in western Ukraine is gonna rail over there. That can be done. Keeping in mind that Russia only has 2 rail movements, so he already railed the colonial. Yeah. Western and southern Ukraine. Yeah, so that's fine. He was able to rail that. Then he's going to rail the 1 artillery that I had talked about that didn't attack in Orel Kursk to where the tanks are. So I'll actually keep this to the side for now, and I'll get an artillery unit off camera and chip that out myself. So that's it for the rail movement. So even if you wanted to rail something else in Russia, you couldn't, because it's only 2. What else? So all the cavalry that are in the 5th Army are going to move to Western Hungary. This is my bad. 5th Army doesn't help me out all that much, because in my case I have them labeled as the 2nd Army, but I know that's what he means. So all the cavalry that are in northern Italy are going to move 1, 2 to West Hungary, which I believe there's 3. Yep, 3. So those 3 cavalry are going to move over to West Hungary. Place those there. We're going to have all the infantry next to Serbia at the moment are going to move into Serbia. So if I'm understanding that correctly, the one in East Hungary, those 2 will move in. And then these 2 will move in. Whoops. into Serbia. He said infantry, not infantry class units. So Laker, I'll move your 2 Austro-Hungarian grenadiers into Serbia. But if you didn't want those moved, just let me know once you see this video or read the news, and we'll put them back in East Hungary. Because that does border Serbia as well. But anyway, so there's that. And then we have the infantry that's in Austria is going to move and join the 2nd Austro-Hungarian army and the 1st Italian army in northern Italy there. And then the seaplane back. And then there's 2 infantry and 1 mountain infantry that are going to rail from the 5th to Serbia. So actually, we'll just take the one that moved previously because 2 of these are going to rail out. So 2 infantry, and I believe it was a mountain infantry. Yeah, 2 infantry and a mountain infantry are going to rail over into Serbia as well. So once again, I'll have to chip some of that out and make some space. But there you are. And that's allowed because there's a rail movement of 3, of course, over in Europe. So that's it for non-combat. So placed units. So the seaplane, it's going to get built at the Western Hungarian minor factory. So there you are. For the 2 colonials, one of them is going to go in Bulgaria. One is going to go where the tanks are in Russia, so in Taurida. Yeah, so this one, colonial Bulgaria. This one is going to go into Taurida. There. The infantry units. So all are going to go in territories bordering Serbia, except for one. It's going to go in Austria. So we'll just place one in East Hungary, and we'll place one in Bosnia. Being as the cavalry are already in West Hungary. And then the German seaplane, so he had said he wanted it Lend-Lease to Western Germany. But it couldn't... Well, I mean, it could go through there, but if it left from the major port, let's say in Bosnia, it would have to go through the mine in Gibraltar. So that would roll on a 3 with a chance of interdicting it. And if it hit a 3, it would sink and destroy that Lend-Lease. So you'd lose that 6 IPP. Same thing once it gets up to the Danish Straits, because Denmark isn't aligned to anybody. So technically, as far as I'm aware, I'm fairly positive you couldn't send Lend-Lease through there. And sorry, it wouldn't start at the major port in Bosnia. It has to start at a factory and follow a supply path. But what you could do is you could just produce it in Bohemia. So that's where it's being produced. And then it'll just has to be delivered into the first territory it gets into. So it'll be placed in Berlin. I know the reason why he's Lend-Leasing it is to probably help destroy that submarine. So that'll still be able to reach as the Germans on the next turn to combat that sub before it can move and have a chance to sink it. So that's a good option as well. Anyways, we'll finish up because this video is getting a bit long. So that was it for the non-combat and all that and placement of units. The only other thing we have left to do is roll the wartime income. So 4, 5, 6. So not terrible, but not great either. So 6. So he's going to get base income of 17 +1 for his trade with Romania. So 18 plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for a total of 24 IPPs. And that'll be it for the Austro-Hungarian turn. And then it'll be the French Republic up next.